Welcome to Greenville Media and the second airing of Conspiracy Conceder. Tonight we have a co-host who more than likely will not be back. Jason Monteleone, a long-time friend, but not recently, and I'm kind of understanding why. He is a dedicated independent who has voted for Obama twice.
Oh, why you got to call me out like that? I mean, I can't help it. I mean, you got to vote for somebody. There was only two choices. I mean, realistically, two choices.
I'm just going to shoot myself now.
Somebody's got to balance you out here. I'm sure Ian over there says he doesn't understand you occasionally. So,
well, I used to have Park Overall on a show, and she's a liberal Democrat, and we used to have a good old time. But actually, we agreed on a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But she didn't nearly piss me off like you already pissed me off tonight.
Yeah, well, got to start off the right way. It'd be more fun. I mean, if we agreed on everything, it'd be kind of boring. You have to have some kind of different views in order to understand people's opinions about things. Oh, sorry. So what should I talk about? So this is my first appearance here, and apparently I've already been axed from the whole show. But I'm going to try to make it exciting and fun, and maybe offset some of JR's here crazy opinions about things, and see if I can get him going.
Well, I was setting up the phone number, so if anybody wants to call in and help me here, please do at 423 area code 972-4444. But tonight we're going to discuss the conspiracy aspect of life. It's not our normal show. That's why we air it at Friday nights at 11 o'clock. It's something a little different, something to take the mood off of the normal everyday life.
It's a pretty good mood out there, I gather.
Not really. But tonight we are going to discuss conspiracies in general, and according to Jason over here, how they do not affect your life in general.
Yeah. I'm going to try to give a political economic aspect, which I'm a firm believer that everything either follows two rules of act. It's you either follow the money trail, which is how things get financed, or you follow the political trail or power trail, which means that something is only going to happen if somebody can finance it, and it's going to improve somebody's position of power in the world or in a certain setting. So I think everything really revolves around those two things. I mean, you can go crazy and say, I just want to do this or do that, but there's going to be a reason behind it, and those are two of the biggest motivators for just about anything.
Like me and Jason was talking before the show, and, he said that the federal government does not interfere with our daily lives, and I have to disagree with that. The federal government interferes with my life daily.
Daily. You must put yourself in a bad position daily.
The government interferes with me daily.
Mm-hmm. So how exactly do they interfere with your life? I mean, I know you said you needed a stamp earlier, and of course you have to buy it from the post office. But I'm sure they'll sell you one if you ask them for it. I don't think they're going to deny you access to a stamp because you need to mail something.
The federal government interferes with me daily by, one, existing, two, telling me that I need to do this, do that, and do this.
They tell you what you need to do.
They tell the American public what to do.
Oh, so you wake up in the morning and get your list from the federal government, and then you figure out what you need to do before you can go on living your own life?
Well, not that way, but...
Oh, okay, so they...
I mean, it's not that plain and simple, okay?
Okay, so you drive the speed limit?
Yeah.
Oh, you do? Oh, okay. I could have swore I remember hearing something about you don't really think that the speed limit is just a guideline. Something about 5 miles an hour over the speed limit's not really speeding or something like that.
I'm not as young as I used to be, and even when I worked for the sheriff's department, I would not speed in the car. I just do not do it.
Well, that's good because that's public property. I mean, I'd hate for you to be speeding with my tax dollars,
Oh, you're one of those people, huh?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think if I'm going to give somebody money to operate, that they should be following the rules. I mean, kind of like giving somebody my tax dollars paying for food stamps and them going out and buying pills or something with them. I mean, I don't want people doing that. So I mean, if I'm going to donate my tax dollars to the sheriff's department,
you're donating your tax dollars.
Well, yeah, I mean it's a voluntary thing. I'm sure if I didn't want to pay taxes, I could hold my money offshore or get some kind of account where, it's untraceable and, I wouldn't have to pay taxes. Kind of like what Mitt Romney did earlier we were talking about. Yeah. How did I get you on that one? I mean,
you're a socialist, communist, Marxist lover.
How am I communist? I believe you need to pay taxes. I mean, taxation without representation, that's what this whole country was founded on. Now we got representation. So I pay my taxes, and, if I don't like it, then
So how does the federal government represent you?
How do they represent me? Well, I mean, first of all, I can't really honestly say that that I pay enough taxes to the government for what they do. I mean, they provide me with some sort of national security. I mean, if they weren't there providing some security, I'm sure somebody would do a land grab or, come over and exploit our resources, which, this country is well funded in those, They provide me with highways so I can drive back and forth to go to school. They provide me with an education system, whether it be the best in the world or not. It's still better than none, and they offer it to me. I mean, we have free public school, 12 grades, which, not a lot of countries have 12 grades worth of school. That's free public. A lot of countries just go to 8. Some don't even have education at all. And some it's not mandatory. And some, you don't get it because you have to work to feed your family. So there's a lot of things that the government does that, your taxes don't account for everything. And that's why, everybody has to pay taxes. Because, they're servicing everybody. Now, the benefits you get are much higher than what you actually pay. That's probably why we're running a $15 trillion deficit at the point, because they're having to pay more than they're actually getting.
So in your economical field here, in my view, and I'm not an economical master like you, but in my view, they're idiots because they can't control and operate a budget.
Well, I'm not going to disagree with you, but I'm also going to say this, that when you have 500 people that disagree on one thing, and then you have a two-party system, which is what we have. I mean, we have some independents in Congress, but there's not a lot. You have a two-party system, and people don't vote. People don't vote the way they actually feel or what they think. They vote party lines. A lot of them do. I mean, hardly ever do you see politicians cross the aisle and vote how they feel because, the object of being a politician is to stay in power. I mean, you can't represent people unless you stay there. And if you go against your party, you're only going to do that a certain number of times before your party says, hey, look, you're not representing what our platform is. And they're going to send you packing. And they'll find somebody who will. So, there's a reason that budgets don't get done, and that's because people, there's one, they don't have the need to do it. There's no absolution where it needs to be done or something's going to happen. It's amazing. Like they didn't pass this fiscal cliff tax law until the last minute. And now they've got the fiscal cliff looming here again in 2 months where they have to raise the deficit ceiling. Or we're going to go under in default on something. And they're going to wait till the last minute to do that too.
Maybe we should let them default.
I know. You know what? I think.
You know what? Hold on. You know what I would like to see is, I would like to see Obama standing in front of Congress, speaking to the American public, saying, China, we cannot pay you this month. And I would love to see what China's going to do about that.
I don't think China would really do anything. And the reason that is because they depend on our country too much. I mean, it's the same thing as like they wouldn't risk a war. I mean, you're talking about if they weren't sure that they were going to gain anything specifically, I mean, major gain, they wouldn't risk that. I mean, honestly, most of the deficit that we owe is to us. I mean, China only holds about $2.5 trillion worth of our debt, which is, and that's to inflate their currency. because they don't have, their currency doesn't regulate itself. It's pegged against ours. So it really doesn't change unless they change it. What happens is that their currency is not correct, or it's not in balance, and they have to buy our debt actually to keep it under control. Otherwise, they'd have hyperinflation, and it would just go out of berserk. I mean, they need us for more than one reason. But if we were told them that we can't pay this month, or if we can't pay for 2 months, I mean, I don't think there's really anything that they're going to do that's going to change anything. I mean, what would really happen was our credit would be downgraded. We'd have to pay a higher interest rate or something like that, which then again compounds the deficit. But most of the deficit that's held is actually owed to the American people, future generations. You know, I mean, it's like I'm going to borrow $1 from my wallet today, and I'll pay it back tomorrow. Well, tomorrow, you don't decide to pay it back. You know, I mean, you just deal with it. And, you know, that's what's going to happen more than likely at some point in time. And, you know, it's just the way it works. I mean, you know, when everything's going good, I mean, the deficit can be paid down in you know, a few years. I mean, this isn't the first time we've run a high deficit. I mean, after World War II, it was 122% of our GDP. I mean, and then within 20 years, by 1970, it was down to, you know, like 10%. So it's not that it can't be paid down. We just have to make an honest go at it. You know, I mean, we have to decide as a country, and our political people have to decide that this is really what we want to do, and we don't want to just keep prolonging it. But running a deficit in times like these, during a recession or depression, is the government has to do that. I mean, because if businesses are not investing in jobs, somebody has to invest in the economy. Otherwise, I mean, nobody's investing, and no jobs, no money for nobody, and, you know, I mean, it's not good for the American people.
So you think the government should... What's your opinion on the government bailing out the big car companies?
Well, you can look at it two different ways. You know, they didn't bail out car companies as much as they bailed out Americans working. I mean, you're talking 100, 200, 300,000 jobs or more directly affected by GM going under. And once you lose those businesses, you're not going to get them back. You're not going to get American-based businesses back. And the reason that is because there's such a high cost to go into that particular manufacturing thing. I mean, you've got to spend millions of dollars up front, and you've got to have the technology, you've got to have all this in place, your capital assets to start. So if you let that go, I mean, there's no way you're going to get it back. And you're putting all those people out of business. I mean, they did what they had to do. You know, it's the same reason they bailed out AIG. It wasn't that AIG was doomed to fail. I mean, they bailed out pension funds. They bailed out the government. You know, I mean, people who invested in AIG, it wasn't the company that was going out. It was some people had their entire savings, states, companies, retirements. For millions of people were in AIG, excuse me. So they didn't bail out a bank. They bailed out everybody else. I mean, it just depends on the way you really look at it.
You know, I don't think they could have spent that money more wisely than the way they did, and you know that leads us to my first conspiracy thought of the night is the Federal Reserve, which is not part of the federal government, and most people do not understand that.
Yeah, the reserve doesn't. They don't act accordingly all the time. They can tell. They advise the government, hey, this is what we're going to do, and this is what you can do to help us. You know, like we're going to try to lower interest rates, or we're going to put money into the economy and try to get money moving and investment going. But if you raise taxes, and I put more money in the government or in the public, so people have it, and then you raise taxes, well, you really didn't do anything. I mean, I gave them more money, you took it away. So nothing really got accomplished. They need to work in unison, and that doesn't always happen. Because I know Bernanke goes in there and says, hey, you know, this is what we're going to do. We're going to try to be proactive, but this is what you guys have to do. You've got to give stability. You know, I mean, companies, there's lots of money out there to invest. it's the cheapest to borrow money that it's ever been from the government or from the banks. Central bank, the rate is absolutely as low as it can be. That it's ever been. And the banks they're getting this money and they're holding it in their coffers. They're not lending it out. And the reason they're not lending it out is because there's no stability. I mean, they don't know what's going to happen. The government needs to provide stability, and that they haven't done. They haven't really done that for the last 4 years. I mean, the policy is all over the place. And Obama's focusing on health care, and he's focusing on guns, and I honestly think that he should stop, and Congress should stop and really focus on one thing instead of 500. And that's what they need to do. What they're actually doing is trying to delay focusing on anything. So, but the Federal Reserve there, they can only try to initiate some kind of policy with banks to lend or some kind of something. But the banks actually have to do it. And the government actually has to do it. They can't go out there. They're not lending money directly to the people. There's middlemen that are responsible for doing that.
So, if we could, let me say it this way. If I was the government, okay, if I gave you $1 trillion check and I said, here, help restore America to before 9/11, what would you do with that $1 trillion?
$1 trillion? Well, I think what I would do is, I don't even need any money. Let's just do it without $1 trillion. If you gave me $1 trillion, I would redo the infrastructure in the country, because infrastructure is a capital gain. I mean, it's something that everybody's going to have use of. Redo the bridges, redo the roads, put new infrastructure in, anything that's going to help your business and people be more efficient. But if I wanted to fix the country right now, what I would do is I would wipe everybody's credit out. Let us start from scratch. There's thousands of bankruptcies that went through. These people filed bankruptcy for economic reasons. They bought a house, and the house wasn't worth what they were paying on it. And it may never be worth again what they were paying on it for years.
Yeah, but hold on. Let's stop right there. Mm-hmm. Some of those people could not afford the house they bought.
Well, some of them couldn't, but some of them can. Yeah. There's a lot of people out there who filed bankruptcy that make $100,000 a year, and they could afford a house. Yeah. But the problem is their credit. Their credit is sacked for 7 to 10 years. Unless they plan on buying something with cash. But there's a lot of people they did. I mean, that's what companies did. I mean, you had these mortgage companies. Countrywide was one of them. They wrote out. It's all political thinking. When George Bush came in, he said, I want everybody to have a house. America's dream is of home ownership. I mean, we want everybody to own a home. So what happened was, people went out there and they wrote loans to people who couldn't
cash the check,
who couldn't pay for it.
Yeah.
And what they did was they don't hold the loan. They sell it off. They package them off as a security, and they put some good loans with some bad loans. There's a risk of default that they take into it. They send it off to the rating agency. The rating agency rates it, says it's a AAA product or whatever, and then they sell it off and they pass it around. I mean, honestly, you may make a payment to the bank you borrowed the money from, but they're probably not holding the note. It's probably been sold off 2 or 3 times. They may not even know where it's at. And so it's not. It was a way of actually buying a security or buying an asset. They didn't care that somebody was buying a home. They didn't care about that. They were making an asset. It's just like digging gold out of the ground and then selling it. They were finding gold, and the gold was somebody wanted to borrow money and was willing to pay a percentage of interest back. So they took a risk payment. They factored it all in. They knew there was going to be some sort of default. They just hoped it wouldn't happen. After 2000, after 9/11, I mean, we had a good upswing in the economy. I mean, housing boom. It was a big bubble. I mean, housing prices were rising. I think my grandparents' house went up 30% in value over 6 years from 2001 and 2007. And people thought, it's the same notion that, they're not making any more land. What's here is what's here, except in Dubai. But
building
palm trees.
Yeah, out in the middle of the ocean.
Yeah. So I mean, what's there is what's there. So and the more people that you have out there, the less land per person that's actually available. So it should go up in value. Oh, sorry.
But we're going to have to change this show to not the conspiracy show. That we're going to have a money show. I'm liking this.
Well, that's what I study in school. I have a different view than a lot of people. I do think outside the box, and but I tend to think of things more realistic, and try to look at them from a people's point of view. When I look at things, it's pretty cut and dry for me. So, but you can do a money show, you can do a conspiracy show. I love conspiracy. It's great. The government seems to be always seems to be the center point in most conspiracies. For some reason, I haven't figured that out.
Well, folks, don't forget our sponsors, Tommy's Plumbing. Give him a call for all your plumbing needs. 24-hour emergency service, 365 days a year. 423-620-7522. But now let's discuss the actual conspiracy of money itself.
Oh yeah.
Now the money we have in our pocket, the dollar bills, the $10 bills, the $100 bills, if you're lucky.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean a freaking thing.
No, it doesn't. It's not. There's nothing in it. It's paper. It's paper and ink. It's only worth $10 because
we say it is.
Because the government says it is. Yeah. That's exactly right. If I took some paper out and tried to sell it to somebody, they're going to laugh at me. Otherwise I'd go to Walmart and buy a 99% pack of paper, and I'd be auction it off to the highest bidder. But that's a conspiracy in itself.
The coins have value because they're made of minerals.
Yeah.
So the quarter may not be a quarter, but it's going to be worth something.
It's going to be worth something. Yeah, they actually say that it costs more to make a penny than a penny's actually worth.
Yeah, it's like 2.5 cents.
Yeah,
now,
and they've been trying to get rid of the penny for years, but the penny's in our system and everybody's used to it. And personally, I think we can do without the copper.
I think we could just, in my opinion, I think we just need to go to credit. Get rid of money altogether. It would save a lot of money.
Well, it really would, and that's a tech side, and I honestly believe that within the next 5 years, and you're starting to see this now, that more and more things are going to be through identification, through fingerprint. And what started off was just
the mark of the beast.
Well, you can call it what you want to call it, but it's we had direct deposit. Now they don't even give you a paper check. They just put it in your bank account. Well, it doesn't take much now to get it out of your bank account either. You don't even ever see your monies half the time. It goes from your job, it goes into the bank, and then you spend it. Do you even look at it? No, you don't. Money is now an inanimate object, and it will be in the future. And it probably won't be not so long from now, where you're just going to have a key fob, and you're just going to go up and swipe it, and it's going to be linked to your credit account. And you can do that. Already now you can pay bills online. You don't have to see your money. You don't have to hold any money. There's no physical need for it. You have a credit card which has access to everything, or a debit card. So yeah, they could save a lot of money. They could save a lot of problems if they didn't have money, because it's one of those things that it's not necessary to have anymore. There's ways to get around. I know I've gone years without having $1 in my pocket. The only thing you need $1 for is, sometimes if there's something that you need, like at a vending machine or whatever.
Well, not even anymore.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, they just swipe your credit card, But, before long, they've got these new chips technology where they, it's easy. Everything's linked. Have all your information on it. They can embed it right under your skin. You can keep your blood type, your social security number, any kind of medical records, anything, and they can just read it with a barcode scanner.
Yeah, that's the end of the world talking right there.
No, it's not the end of the world. It's innovation.
Now, that brings me to my next thought is one thing I would love to see. But I know if it ever happens, it'll usher in the end of time. Is a one world government. A one world economy, a one world populace.
It's already a one world economy.
Well, it is and it ain't.
Well, it is. It is to say this. It is to say it's a one-world economy now, because when our economy started to fail in 2007, 2008, it didn't just affect this country. It affected China. It affected England. It affected Greece. It affected Italy. It was felt all over the world. And the reason that is because the world is getting smaller. I mean, I buy stuff from China over eBay all the time. It gets here in a week, 2 weeks, sometimes 5 days. You know what I mean? It's
yeah, but the problem with that is, like petro oil, or they call it petrodollars. Is the world is based on the American dollar.
Well, yeah, because it's a stable currency.
And that I believe that's the problem is, as we become one world, one economy, that, it like the human race, for example, if the world blew up today, there would be no more humans, according to some people. So we need to branch out and take different routes. So, like, if America did crash or another country crashed, we'd have backups just in case.
Well, every country is going to feel an effect, but if say the American economy went kaput, say tomorrow that there was no American economy, what's going to happen is all the resources that we provide, are still
billions of dollars in aid to countries.
Yeah, I mean, but what's going to happen is if one gas station in your town goes out of business, the other gas stations pick up the slack. So somebody else benefits. I mean, if our economy goes under, it's going to hurt somebody for a little while, but once they readjust in the long run, somebody else is going to benefit. If everybody here died, for say, we had a mass extinction in North America, in the short run, it would be devastating because of all the services that we provide, with oil and corn and services and everything. But in the long run, somebody else is going to take advantage of that and say, the entry to the market is easy because I don't have to compete with this other company. So they're going to come in and excavate our resources, create a new government or a new whatever, and take advantage of that. And that's one of the things I don't understand is why companies that have lots of money aren't trying to invest in going into space for resources. That's one of the things that I get a lot of flack of in my economics classes in school is, we hear this. We had a big question not too long ago about population. There's a lot of people think that the world's overpopulated. You'll hear that if we keep going at the rate we're going, there'll be, some people say 40 trillion people by the year 2050 or 2100 or whatever. Some estimates are at 9 trillion. They say it should be around. They say the world could be sustainable with about 9 trillion people.
You mean billion?
Is it billion?
Yeah, it's like
maybe it is billion. My bad. But it's the world should be sustainable with 9 billion people because we have limited resources and we don't recycle a lot of things like we should. We don't.
Well, look at the economy from when we was little. Mm-hmm. Or not the economy, but the world in general to today. Like, if you go over here off of McKee Street, that little, and I always bring this up, that little TV repair shop that used to be there years ago. That it's no longer there because it's cheaper to go buy a new TV than fix the one you got.
That's innovation, and that's what propels everything. I always joke about these people who say, I can't.
What was Duggan's?
Duggan's TV. Yeah, I think there's a transmission shop that's right next to that now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Repairing the TV, it's old school. It's like we don't have party line telephones anymore either because the technology's gotten better. And that's something that's innovation, and you're going to see that continuously, and that's what drives any economy. Is innovation. But, like I said earlier, we need to, if we're going to run out of certain resources here in this world, which is sustainability, if we're going to run out of those resources, say petroleum.
Oh, I know where you're going with this, and I will be the first to sign up to take my family to another world.
Well, they have said, NASA it's a program that they've mentioned sometimes. It's called a one-way trip to Mars. And what they need is people who are willing to be adventurers. Like when they came to America, 400 years ago, people packed up, they looked for a better life, and they took off. And they didn't know what they were coming to. They didn't know the world. They didn't know the land. They didn't know anything. All they knew was that it was better than where they were at. Somebody has to be the first person to go. So there's an idea, and I think NASA is part of it, and there's other big companies that are doing it, is a one-way pilgrim type to Mars.
And what is it like?
To
Homesteading.
To start a civilization. I mean, somebody's got to go there and do it, and a return trip isn't possible a lot of times. There's I think Ian, you were talking about sustaining food for the trip to Mars, and he was talking about they're having a hard time trying to maybe keep enough food for 2 years or something like that. I think they can do it. I think the technology's out there. The biggest problem about going anywhere from this planet is you have to get out of our atmosphere. Well, we will in a few years have a very reliable docking space station. That we can move materials from here to there, and we have to find a cheap way to do it.
What with a I can't even speak tonight. A feather. I can't say it.
What?
Feather.
A feather. I don't know. I know that NASA's actually working on a space elevator. They've talked about this many times.
Yeah, it's the same thing, but it's called something different.
It's what it is it's stringing together carbon nanofibers.
Yeah.
And
it goes from here to the lower atmosphere.
Yeah. Once you get something far enough out in space, gravity keeps it there. And, it can take a payload. I don't know how much, but once you can find a cheap way to get it out of the atmosphere and to get it up there, then we can go somewhere, And once we go somewhere, we may not be able to come back, but somebody's got to be willing to take a chance. I mean, just like they did when we found this country, somebody's got to be willing to be adventurous. And there are people out there who are willing to do that. As long as they're given.
But I would not want to go to Mars. I mean, because
the moon would be a better start.
Not even the moon. I mean, because technically, if you count space, the whole solar system is still one little tiny dot.
Oh yeah.
So we would need to be like light years away.
No, you don't have to be light years away. You need to start small. That's the biggest thing. That's with any business. You don't expand outside of something that you can't control or that you can't monitor. It's just like if I can only mow an acre of grass, then I don't want to buy 5 acres of land that I have to mow because I can't take care of it. So it goes to waste. So I need to start small. And starting small would be going to the moon, starting in moon base. I know NASA's working.
Well, no, I agree with you. I just think eventually we need to expand out of the solar system to be safe.
You will when propulsion systems are physically possible.
Now, do you believe in the warp drives and
you can call it warp drive? I mean, that's a term from what? Star Trek.
I mean, but you got to use terminology that people
understand.
Yeah.
Okay. So warp drive is faster than the speed of light.
Yeah. Do you believe that's possible?
Einstein would say no. He would say that nothing can travel faster than the speed of light. I actually disagree with that.
Einstein lived 70 years ago.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's not to say he's not 100 times smarter than me.
Oh, I guarantee he's smarter than me. But I mean, and I'll use this example, and I've used it before. I'd never even saw a computer until I was in the 4th grade, and didn't really start playing on computers until I was 15. Mm-hmm. My daughter was an expert by the time she was three years old.
Yeah, so I mean, the reason I think people say that we can't go faster than the speed of light is because that's the speed at which we see. So physically, if something's going faster than the speed of light, we'd never be able to see it. That doesn't mean it can't happen. That just means that we're physically unable to view it. And I think that's probably a lot of the detriment to why people think that.
Well, I mean, who says we couldn't see it?
Well, I mean but that's the way your visual cortex reads. It reads light. I mean, it's light waves is what you see. Well,
I mean, we can't see radio waves, but we know they're there.
But but everything that we have that we know of doesn't travel faster than the speed of light. And the reason it is because we can't detect it and we can't see it. That's the only reason. But I'm sure in the future we're going to realize that.
Now what's the future? Time frame it.
I think we'll be off planet.
You think so? Okay, now
I think we'll be off planet by 2150. We'll be off planet.
We'll be living on another body.
Yeah, by 2150. And the reason I say that is if you look at the exponential growth in civilization and technology, It took, I can't remember exactly how to say, is that it took 1,000 years to do this and 1,000 years to do that and 20 years to do this. I mean, the rate of growth that we've had over the last 200 years.
I hate to disagree with you. If we're not off before then, we're probably not going to ever get off.
No, yeah, we will. I mean, honestly, this planet, I mean, if you don't recycle or you don't find any kind of reusable energy source, which is the main thing, and there's a lot of reusable energy sources out there, but there's no reason to stay on this planet. I mean, it's a speck. I mean, it's like 1 grain of sand on an entire beach. I mean, that seems kind of limited. I mean, I want to go. I want to know what's out there. I mean, I'm sure other people want to know what's out there.
Do you think there's other life out there?
Of course. I mean, they've already found other life. But, see, that's the problem is people don't think. They found bacteria.
Yeah,
bacteria is life.
I know that, but now do you think the government's actually lying to us and not telling us that actual intelligent life's out there?
Well, let's just say this. Let's look at it from a political aspect, a humanity aspect, okay?
I know where you're going with this. I want to say this. That the government, if the government knows that this stuff exists, and then they put on this facade of the space shuttle, and then let the people in the Challenger die, they believe the American people would basically riot.
I don't know if they would riot, but what I think is that it would be in the best interest of humanity for people to not think that there's something out there. I mean, it's just like when you're raising your children. You let them play on the internet, but there's things on the internet that you don't want them to know. So you monitor them, and you don't tell them everything.
I'm not stupid. I mean, I know there's good and bad in every society. So I know there's bad aliens out there that would want to kill us, and there's good aliens out there that want to help us.
Why would you assume that? Because you watch it on Star Trek?
No.
I'm
basing it on our own race.
Okay. Well,
our own history.
What I'm going to say is that if there is intelligent life out there, for one, in what physiological, from what I understand about that, the atmosphere determines what kind of physiological creatures that you have available on your planet. So, I remember, I think you said one time that there's humans on other planets. Well, the only reason there would be humans on other planets is if they had an atmosphere that allowed humans to be on other planets.
Yeah.
That life form to evolve.
We'll use the Star Trek example because it's what people understand is, a Class M planet which is habitable for human life.
It's in the Goldilocks zone. Yeah. But what you're going to say is, I think people expect aliens to look like us, or they can look like little green men. Well, that's not always going to be the case.
Hell, they could be damn 100-foot spider-looking horses.
Right. They could be whatever the atmosphere or the gravity or whatever it is allows them to be. That's one of the big issues. How they develop technology is, of course, dependent on their brain capabilities. Whether they're physically able to develop. Yeah. Whether they have resources on their planet to develop.
Or what even this, the opposable thumb.
I mean, there's a lot of things that are going to go into it that, that make humans different from other things. I mean, we advanced in the world because of the way we were able to manipulate things, the way we're able to understand things, the way we learn things. If you look at other animals, I mean, they've developed certain ways of doing things that best help them to evolve, and that's what we've done. But it's hard to say that there's. I mean, I'm not going to disagree. I think there's other life forms out there. What they are, I have no idea. We used to base everything on water. Well, now we know that there's water on the moon. We know that there's water on Mars. We know that there's water on Saturn's moon. Water's not a determinant factor anymore, I don't think. I think they're kind of getting out there to explaining that, it's just 2 hydrogens and an oxygen, and it's pretty common. So I think they're starting to relook at that, and now they're starting to look at, are there planets that are within a sun that's our size, or that's in the Goldilocks zone, or that could sustain some sort of life. But
now, do you think, and after this we'll take a commercial break, but do you think in our lifetime that we'll ever know for sure?
In our lifetime, probably not. And the reason is because the way our society views things, I don't think
You don't think they're ready?
I don't think humanity is ready for it. I don't think we've evolved enough critical thinking skills or, to really deal with that.
No, I'm telling you, my world would not be shocked if the government came out and said aliens exist.
Well, what would happen to religion if that happened? I mean, what?
Well, you see, but the Vatican's preparing people for this.
Well, everybody does. I mean, I think TV shows do. I think Star Trek does. I think Star Wars does.
You're right on track.
They're getting people prepared for probably the inevitable, because I mean, you've got to prepare people, but I think that the people
So you think it's going to take another 50 years at least?
I don't know exactly, but I would imagine we're going to have better chance once we get out there and get off planet. And, because I don't think we don't really spend a lot of resources actually looking for stuff. I mean, you've got SETI, you've got a few other programs, you've got a few, telescopes around the world that actually look at things. But I mean, it's a big ass sky, and that's a quote from one of the movies that I watched. I think it's Contact. And they say, they really can't look at everything. And every day we find out, I mean, the universe is expanding, and every day they're finding new planets. They're finding new this and new that. I mean, you can't really look at all of it. I mean, because we're looking into the past. And every minute, I mean, no matter what I do, my brain sees the past. Mm-hmm. And when we look into space, we see the past, because in order for us to see that light, like we were talking about earlier, that light has to travel all that distance, and it only travels at a certain speed. So,
and just me and you looking across the table,
yeah, it takes time.
Yeah, we're actually looking a microsecond into the past.
Yeah, and when you look farther away, like at galaxies or planets, 100 light years away, we're actually looking 100 light years into the past. What that planet was, where it was, what that galaxy was 100 years ago.
Now here's the question for you. And I want you to answer this when we come back from the break, is we're looking at each other a microsecond into the past, but what about the sound? Are you hearing me from a microsecond from the past, or is it the present? We'll be back right after this. Don't forget our friends at Realty Executives, Reggie Jones. Give them a call for all your house hunting needs. 423-639-3465. Check out their website at greenville-homes.com. All right, now answer your question.
All right, so do we hear sound relative to seeing things? And I think that we do, to a certain extent. Now, it's me and you sitting here. When I watch you speak, the words that I hear are in unison with your lips. But now let's say that we're looking at an airplane and it's broke the sound barrier. Now I'm going to see the airplane, half a mile or 2 miles or whatever, go by, and then 10, 15 seconds later, I'm going to hear it go by. So once you start moving faster or getting farther away, that doesn't hold true. But for me and you sitting this close, yeah. And, it's going to do that. But it will change.
Now, if anybody wants to get in on the conversation, this is a great conversation. I may have to change my mind and invite Jason back if we can just not discuss politics. Call in at 423-972-4444. But, I have to disagree with you. One, I think we will see it in the near future. I mean, by the year 2020.
You think we'll see?
We'll know that aliens exist. And even if it's a rat on another planet.
Well, then I can tell you right now that alien life does exist.
Well, yeah, I know. I'm going beyond bacteria.
Why? It's life.
Well, I know, but I mean the actual animal life, I'll say.
Well, you want to be specific. If there's not a dog on another planet, then it's not an animal life. Is that what you're trying to say?
Well, no, we all know bacteria, microbes, and organisms, But I guess it's intelligent life that's what we're looking for.
Well, bacteria is extremely intelligent.
Yes.
I'm going to tell you that right
Yes.
now.
But we cannot communicate with it.
Well, so you think we need to communicate? Can you communicate with your dog?
Yes.
You understand what it's saying?
No, but it understands
so
me.
So you communicate through different ways. Now, so you maybe
you
haven't learned to communicate with bacteria yet.
If I holler for my dog will come. It may not understand what I'm saying, but it understands.
It acts like it does.
Yeah.
Well, maybe you just haven't learned to communicate with bacteria yet.
Yeah.
I mean, that doesn't mean you can't communicate with them. I mean, a scientist can communicate with bacteria through chemicals.
Yeah.
I mean, it can stimulate it to do something. It could, or it could change, manipulate what it is doing through the use of chemicals or something else. So, I mean, if you want to say that, that could be considered a way of communicating. It just depends on how you look at it. And I think that's that thinking inside the box thing that people want to do.
Here's what I want, okay? I want to walk up to an alien being and have this same conversation.
That probably won't happen.
I disagree with you.
I don't think so. I think that probably won't happen.
I disagree with you.
Why would an alien speak English? That's what kills me about Star Trek. Which
I agree with you.
I have to admit.
I mean, it ticks me off. Don't get me wrong. I mean, that's why they invented the universal translator.
Oh, okay. Well.
Okay. But I mean, we all understand mathematics. They say that's the universal language.
It is. It is the universal language.
Okay. So we can eventually understand each other. I mean, you can get a German to speak English. You can get an American to speak German.
Mm-hmm.
Why could I not learn another alien race, or they learn ours?
Well, first of all, you have to be in contact with them for quite a while. And this is the way I look at it. If we're going to come in contact with an alien race, more than likely, and I'm going to say 95% of the time, now this is just speculating because, of course, nobody ever knows.
Well, okay, we'll say this and we'll go to your topic.
Okay.
We have been in communication with them ever since Roswell.
Yeah, and a lot of people say that. What that communication is limited, and the reason it's limited is because I think we really don't know as a human race the intent, and I think we have to look at our own history with humans, to figure out what the intent of an alien being would be. Now, if we look back through history, most of the time people traveled to other places to conquer.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's natural to only be afraid of what's going to happen. I mean, Star Trek is nice, but I'm going to say that 95% of the aliens that we would contact, in just a range, that doesn't mean we're going to meet 100, but I'm just saying on a percentage, I think 95% of them are out there looking for resources, the same thing that we're going to be doing. I mean, so it doesn't seem
a lot of people say that like our water could be rare on other places.
No, I don't think so.
Well, I mean, I'm just using an example.
Yeah.
That's one resource they could be wanting.
If you go back to the ancient Sumerian text, I think you brought that up one time. I think the ancient Sumerians believed that they were dropped out, that we were a slave race of another planet, and we were put here to assume gold, and because
by the Anunnaki.
Yeah, they valued gold, and there was gold on this planet, so we were put here to do that. And it's kind of funny. There's a conspiracy around this, and I thought about it quite a bit. But we have this thing called gold fever here on this planet, and it can't be explained. It's not understood. It does happen. We've seen it.
And why do we say that gold is valuable?
Well,
I mean, it could be worthless.
Gold, see, that's the whole point. Gold is not valuable. It's not a great conductor. It doesn't have any physical. It doesn't do things. Copper is a better conductor than gold will ever be. It's an assumed value. I mean, people value it because it's pretty.
It's all based on perception.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I'm trying to think of the word now, and it slipped my mind, but. People value a lot of different things. It's just like your car. Okay, I'm going to go out there and say I live in Florida, and gas prices are $5 a gallon, and there's another guy who lives in Alaska, and gas prices are $3 a gallon. Yeah, I mean, this is relative, but and he's going to need a big truck. I mean, the terrain is different. It doesn't matter about the gas. Florida, it's flatter. They want a good priced car. So the person from Florida is going to value the truck a lot less than the person from Alaska. But the truck is still the truck. It doesn't change. It's valued because of people's perception of it. It's the same thing with gold.
Aliens could come here and want something that we could care less that they took.
That's true. But, like I get back to the gold thing. I mean, it's really funny because, there's a lot to go around this. And it involves a lot of conspiracies. The idea was that, I remember the Anunnaki or whatever, they were supposed to be coming back through Planet X or whatever it is, and supposed to be coming.
Nibiru.
Yeah, so you've heard of this, right? Okay, so, and the whole idea behind these Sumerians, that we were put here we were a slave race, humans were planted here to assume gold, to mine gold, and when they come back, they were going to take it. Well, not only did we have this gold fever thing, which is, the need to hoard gold if we can find it. There's a fever. It's crazy to watch somebody who was mining it or something like that. They will go all into the land thinking that they found something, and they really haven't. But if you look at, like, people say there's not enough gold in Fort Knox, that the World Trade Center when it collapsed. I laugh as people don't realize that the World Trade Center was actually the largest gold depository in the entire world. But what happened to all that gold? Where did it go? Did we maybe pay off these people when the planet come by?
That's got to deal with a lot of... That's Cheney's involved with that somehow.
There's a lot of people that were involved. In the conspiracy around that was it really just a bank heist? What happened to that gold? No, but nobody knows. They never even mentioned it. But other countries had all their gold. Some countries had every gold that they owned stored in the bottom of the World Trade Center. Did they ever once mention that on the news? Did you ever hear that?
No. Well, we heard it because we
did. Okay.
Well, we're involved in that stuff.
Well, yeah. But, did they ever mention that?
The mainstream press, no.
Oh, no. And, the mainstream press, and this is what I made a reference to it on my Facebook today. It's like, one of the guys, there's the Sandy Hook shootings up there. Anyways, apparently this teacher from Florida University, one of the universities in Florida, started noticing that there were some gaps in the media coverage. And, he made a question about it. Anyways, the thing was that they were blaming this professor because people noticed the gaps. They looked at his conspiracy video, and they started calling and harassing the people up there. And he said, you should blame him for them calling. And it's like, well, you can't do that. He didn't really have anything to do with it. But no, I've lost where I was going with that. That's funny, but it's in reference to the. Do you really know what's going on? The media doesn't cover things all the way. There's always a bias to it. I hear people all the time complaining about Communist News Network and Fox News, and if you're a Republican, you don't listen to CNN because they don't have your view. So you're going to tell me that any news source out there actually going to give you an actual view?
They all lie.
They all lie,
yeah.
Exactly. So where are you going to get your news from?
I get it from multiple sources, and I stick it together, and I mold it, and then I look at it, throw it away, and then think for my damn self.
Well, that's good. I always laugh. I always talk to people, and since I study politics a lot, I always ask people. They say, "Are you Republican or Democrat?" And we have the same conversation, and people criticize me because I'm an independent. So I think I'm independent of thinking, and I don't align with one party. I believe both sides. But I always ask people, "You're a Democrat or a Republican?" Well, why are you Republican? And the funny thing is they don't know. The majority of people don't know. The reason that the majority of people are what they are is because that's what their parents were. That's what they know. They're not involved in politics.
I'll change you on that one. Is my parents are Democrat. I lean toward Republicans more than I do Democrats.
So why do you lean towards Republican? What Republican values are your values?
I agree on. I understand the aspect of, I want to better myself. I want a smaller government. I don't want to handhold every damn body like the Democrats
Okay,
do.
Smaller government. Let's just say that.
I know where you're going with this.
The last time there was a Republican president,
yes, and
he created the Department of Homeland Security, which now employs 250,000 employees. It is the largest government agency.
Yes,
and
I hate them both, but I do. I hate both Democrats and Republicans. I just, it's like, I don't watch Major League Baseball, but I can tell you the team I like just to have a conversation with
just
it.
to talk.
Yeah. So, I'll pick, because, you got to pick one out of two. And
I didn't pick.
Well, I do. 'Cause I'd rather say Republican than Democrat. I just do.
Okay. Well.
But Don't forget our friends at Lynn Pitt Construction Incorporated. Give them a call if you're looking to build a house or remodel a house. They're great people. Call them at 423-823-1960. Check out their website at www.pitcrew.com. That's PITTCREW. But no, I just lean toward them, and I hate them both, and I hate the mainstream media, and that's one of the multiple reasons I created Greenville Media.
And I hope you. I hope you give the people, I mean, everybody has an opinion, obviously, and all opinions are biased, no matter what you say.
And, Park used to be on the show, like I was telling you earlier, and she had her views, I had my views, and we agreed on a lot more than we disagreed on.
Yeah, and that's going to happen.
Yeah, and, and I get, the slogan of Greenville Media is connecting the community. I want to give everybody a voice, whether I agree with you or not. I'm going to listen to you. And the last time she was on the show, we had this... oh my God, liberal Democrat calling in complaining about this old lady living in this huge 3-bedroom house, and there was a family next to her who lived in a 800 square foot house, and he thought that the woman should have give up their house to that family and switch houses with them. And I just threw my headset across the room and I said, "You can talk to this man." I said, because he
did, yeah. See, that's the critical thinking aspect, and see, that's why we were talking earlier, and I said, you can't always let people make up their own minds, because then you have people that don't use reality as a basis. I mean, they see things a certain way. I mean, you have in your life what you have worked for, or somebody gives you, and if you want more, then you need to find a way to get it. And most people would say you either beg, borrow, or steal. No, that's the way it is. But I mean, I work hard for what I have, and I've been given a lot of things, and I'm humble for that.
But it's like Obama said that the government created that. The government didn't create my business. I created my own business.
Yeah. They gave you the resources to do it, though. I mean, honestly, they do provide things.
What resource did they give me?
Well, you have electricity here. You have
a private company could do that.
Well, I would disagree with that. There'd be
okay, we'll use this example. FedEx and UPS is 10 times better than the post office.
Yeah, really? Have you ever tried to mail a letter with UPS?
Yeah.
Really?
I use them all the time.
Okay.
I love them.
Okay. Well, I'm not going to disagree. I mean, I mail packages with the post office. I mean, and I mail packages with FedEx.
No, I'm just saying, anything the government can do, a private citizen or a private company could do just as good or better.
That's right. I mean, you would think that on the majority of things. Would you want a private company ruling your country?
No, but it does.
Well, in some aspects, but it's not one country. It's like a conglomerate of big companies. Yeah. I mean, there's a big joke that I make all the time that politicians should wear uniforms like race car drivers, so you know who their sponsors are.
I want to thank this.
Yeah.
I want to thank Joe Bob's Barbecue for getting me elected today.
But I mean that. But you see that. I mean, people align. Like I was telling you earlier, people. The only way they can represent people is if they stay in power. And the way they stay in power is by aligning with people that have influence, within the people they represent in their area, So you want people, you as a citizen ask for that. And if you don't like it, then you need to vote for somebody else. And the problem is you don't vote for people. I mean, that's why most of the politicians they're in there. Rarely do we see the incumbent not win.
I tell you, the majority of the people I voted for did not get in the office.
Yeah, well, everyone I voted for actually got in office. That's the first time it's ever happened, I believe. But, and the reason that is because the people who have money, it takes a certain amount of money to run for office. And that's the problem we have. So, everybody complains, the average salary of the U.S. Congress is $900 and some $1,000. Well, who voted them in there? We did. How are you going to blame them? You voted for the person who put the most signs out, who bought the most television ads, who had people to knock on your door. That's who you voted for. You didn't vote for, the guy who had any idea what he was doing. You voted for whoever had the most money, spent the most money.
Yeah.
And that's the problem.
We just need to put them on American Idol and call in our votes.
I don't know about that. I just think people need to be.
Well, we'd get a lot more votes that way.
I think people need to be more proactive in their politics. I mean, if you want to vote, then you should be educated on who you're voting for and what they stand for.
Well, I want to thank everybody for tuning in. This was an awesome show, and you're more than welcome to come back next Friday.
I appreciate that.
And we'll keep it about a week thing. I ain't guaranteeing nothing yet, but you can come back next Friday. But I want to thank everybody for tuning in. This has been Conspiracy Conceder with Jack Wilkerson and Jason Monteleone. Bye, everybody.